Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Now in today's video we're going to be doing yet another Windows beta build installation on the $5 Windows 98 PC. Now, we last did this a couple videos ago when I installed Microsoft Neptune build 5111 on this computer. If you haven't seen that video, I'd highly recommend you go and check it out up in the cards. But in today's video, as requested by a lot of you guys on that previous video, we're going to be taking a look at a build of Microsoft codename Whistler. Now, Whistler was the project that was created after the Neptune and Odyssey development teams essentially merged to focus on creating one version of Windows, but having a home and a professional release, and Whistler was that project, which eventually became known as Windows XP. Now the build that we're focusing on today is build 2419, which is actually the build featured in my very first Windows beta build tutorial video that I made 8 years ago, back in 2012. Now the only difference this time around is I have the personal build of Windows Whistler this time, as opposed to the professional build that we took a look at in that original video. Now the professional build of Windows Whistler obviously became Windows XP Professional. The personal builds of Windows Whistler became the Home Edition of Windows XP. So that's the only difference, and I just kind of thought it'd be cool to take a look at the personal build in this video and see how it differs from the professional build. So we are booted into Windows 7 right now, which is what I installed in my last video featuring this computer, which was the hour-long Windows massive upgrade on this computer, where we started from Windows 1.0 and upgraded all the way to, well, Windows 7, as you can see here, is the farthest that we could get. So the reason why that I was booted up into Windows 7 is because I wanted to show you guys what the auto run menu looked like, but we obviously can't upgrade Windows 7 to Windows Whistler build 2419 because it's an older version. So the setup, like the actual install option, was grayed out. So that was what the auto run menu looked like if you've never seen it before. Now, because this is a beta release of Windows, you can see I've actually went ahead and changed our system date back to January 30th, 2001, which was a few days after this build was released to testers on January 23rd. So we're going to go ahead and press F10 here to save our changes, and we're going to actually boot off of the CD. Alright, so here we are, guys. We have booted off of the CD, and right off the bat you're going to notice a couple of things. First of all, this is identifying itself right up at the top here as Windows Whistler Personal. And we get a setup notification that basically says this is an evaluation version of Windows, which contains a time-limited expiration for evaluation purposes only, which is why we have to change the system date back. So we're going to press enter, and we're going to set up Windows Whistler right now by pressing enter. Now it's obviously going to find that we have well, first we have to accept the license agreement. This is a 180-day license, so we're going to accept that. Now I actually have a USB flash drive plugged into the back of this machine, so that's this D drive right here that's recognizing, which is an 8 gig drive. But if we press the down arrow key to go down to the C drive, you can see this is the one with the volume label of MS-DOS 6, which is what we did the massive Windows upgrade on. So we're going to go ahead and press D to delete this partition, press enter and L to delete it. We're going to install on this unpartitioned space and format it using the NTFS file system quickly. And there we go, it is now copying files over to the Windows installation folders. Alright, so the system is restarting right now, and what you're going to notice is this is probably one of my favorite features of this build, and that is this boot screen. Check this out. It's just so cool, you know, it's very sleek, it's got those colors going across there, it's very nice, and when it actually finishes loading, it'll actually fade out. You see that? Like, check that out, that is just so cool. That is something that they actually did not keep from Windows XP. They went back to a more, not as graphically advanced boot screen, if you will. It's probably the best way that I can put it. Alright, so here we are at the next phase of the setup, where it's going to ask you for your regional and language options, your product key, all of that good stuff. But one thing that I want to highlight is it looks like we're actually running the setup here at a much lower color depth, because this setup interface looks a lot different compared to what we saw in my original tutorial video, which looked like this. The one in that original video looked more like the final XP, you know, setup process right here. It had a, you know, all of the colors matched, the layout matched. This one here, the layout still matches, but you can see that we've got a totally different color scheme going on. We've got a white background as opposed to that lighter blue one, and our borders up here are even a darker blue than what we saw in that other video. But like I said, this is just probably because we are running this at a lower color depth, and you can see that with the logo up here, it does not display 100% correctly. That's just because we're running it at a lower color depth. So What we're going to do is just go through our regional language options right here. Both these defaults are fine for us. We're going to put in our name here, and we're going to put in the beta product key, and we're going to put in our computer's name. We're just going to call this once again the 98PC, and press next. And our date and time settings, we're going to leave this. I mean, obviously, we still want the date to be in 2001, January 30th, 2001. Now, all of the little blurbs here, the little messages where it just kind of talks about various features, like right now, it's talking about create a personal computing experience, and it talks about different user accounts for everyone who wants to use the computer. But you'll see that it does identify itself as Whistler throughout this entire thing. So this is not just reused text like from Windows 98. And there was even one that actually displayed beforehand where it was talking about the welcome screen, which was obviously a feature that was introduced in XP, so 98 and ME didn't have any of that. So yes, these are actually newly written, little text blurbs here telling you about some of the various features that Whistler, and which would later become XP, had to offer. All right, so we're back, and you can see that we actually got a little bit of an error message here. It actually says one or more minor errors occurred installing Windows Whistler, but these errors will not prevent Windows Whistler from running. So yeah, it's just saying that some of these files are not signed properly by Microsoft, so there's not really anything we can do about that, because I mean, this is a original ISO image that was, ripped off of a CD. We're just going to say close, and like it said, it's not going to prevent the OS from running, so it will still actually work. And so here we go, booting into the out-of-box experience. You can see the little animation right there, and it said Windows Whistler. And here we go. So you can see that first of all, the screen resolution has actually changed. So let me go ahead and actually zoom in on this a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. So yeah, this right here is Whistler's out-of-box experience. Now you'll notice that there are some similarities to the final build of Windows XP. There is no music in this, and you can see that from my original tutorial video. There's no title.wma soundtrack playing in the background. So it says, welcome to Microsoft Windows. Thank you for purchasing Microsoft Windows codename Whistler. Let's spend a few minutes setting up your computer. Now you'll notice that instead of the little help icon, that little animated help icon that's usually at the bottom right, we now have Merlin. And if I press F1 here, Merlin will actually come up and do some animations, and he just says, how can I assist you? So I can say, okay, tell me what to do next, and he can kind of go into some more detail about what you should do. So he goes over to the next button, as you can see, and says, if you're ready to begin, click the next button. So yeah, the whole little like assistant feature was actually still present in XP, but it just wasn't Merlin. It was just literally like an animated help icon. So we're going to click next here to move on. And for the internet, we're going to say create a new internet account after I finish setting up Windows, which we're just not going to do when that comes up. Let's say yes. We're going to be sharing this to actually create multiple user accounts. So we'll put in my name as Michael, and the second user, let's just say test, and we'll do another demo account. So we'll have 3 users on the system, so we'll click next. So now we'll create 3 user accounts. We'll click on finish. So here we are on the welcome screen, and you can see it actually looks really, really cool. I really do enjoy this layout here, just kind of the way that it's laid out. It actually looks really, really nice. You see we've actually got 4 accounts because we've added the guest account down there at the bottom, which would not normally display by default in XP. You'd have to go and turn it on. And you can see your computer name is actually on this sidebar here. You can see it says the 98PC, and we've got our turn off option down here. So we're going to click on my user account right here to log in. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and log in. Now the animations too throughout this system are also really, really cool. There's a lot of animations. And right here you can see our very first look at what was known as the Watercolor theme, which was the theme that these builds of Windows Whistler used. It's actually one of my favorite, probably my favorite Windows theme out there. It's just really, really cool. And so yeah, this right here is what the Watercolor theme looked like. I can go ahead and open up another window here. You can see this is what the start menu looked like. Very, very cool looking. I mean, I don't know what it is. It's just something about it. It just looks really, really cool. I mean, it's probably has to do with the fact that, I mean, this was not seen in the final release of Windows XP, so it's kind of cool to like wonder what if Microsoft went with this theme. But from what I understand, this theme actually was never intended to be used as the final theme. It was actually a placeholder theme that was just used while Microsoft was developing the final Luna theme. Now, just like in Microsoft Neptune, we do have that same little comments link up here on every single window, including the comments window. And this is exactly the same interface that we got in Microsoft Neptune, where you could send a comment to the Microsoft developers. You would obviously have to be connected to the internet to do this, but you actually could do it, and this is where you would put in your beta ID. You could select what the comment is about and how bad is the problem. You see you've got a couple options right here, from intolerable to barely noticeable. Now the background you can see is also totally different. This is not something that was used in XP. This is kind of, again, a placeholder wallpaper. You can see it actually says Whistler up here. You can very faintly see it, but it does say Whistler right here. It's kind of spelling it out in very, very large letters. And you can't really see it, but down here at the bottom right, I can probably go ahead and change the background so you can see it a little bit better. But let's go to this Moonflower wallpaper here. You can see that down here at the bottom it says Windows Whistler Personal for testing purposes only build 2419, and there's the whole version string there. Now build 2419 was actually the very last release of Windows Whistler, the last beta build to utilize the watercolor theme. All the builds after this ended up using the Luna theme. Now, one of the other things that I want to show you guys is some of the animations that this build and a few other Windows Whistler builds included that actually were not seen on the final release of Windows XP. You guys already saw the boot screen, how it kind of faded out and will look totally different than the Windows XP boot screen. But also with the welcome screen has a lot of animations as well. So if I go to the start menu down here and click on log off, the log off Windows dialog box here is not finalized yet. Obviously in Windows XP it was much more graphical. So we can say switch user, and we'll actually go back to the welcome screen. And you'll notice that when this happens, yeah, notice how there's kind of a lot of fading going on. This your actual PC name kind of slides in from the left side, and your turn off computer and control panel message on there actually fade in as well. So there's actually a lot of animations put into this, and I just think it's really cool. It's a really nice touch. So when we actually log back into my account, you'll notice that it kind of does that nice fade up effect. It kind of slides up, and here we are, we have logged back in. So that's what the welcome screen looks like if you haven't seen it before. So like usual in these videos, let's go ahead and run WinVer to actually view the system information, so you can see that this is identifying itself as, well, first off, the little banner up there says Microsoft codename Whistler. It's identifying itself as Microsoft Windows version of 5.1, build 2419. Again, the same string that's displayed down there at the bottom. And it does say this is an evaluation copy that expires on July 29th, 2001 at 10:43 a.m., which is exactly 180 days from the system date that we specified in the BIOS. Now, one of the other things that this build of Whistler included was a very early version of the interactive tour that came with Windows XP. Obviously, we know that very animated tour that Windows XP had. Well, there was a very early prototype version of it in here. Now, to get to that, though, we have to go into the C drive, and you'll notice that these files are hidden message is actually totally different. It says, looking for your programs, try clicking on the start menu, so they kind of refer you back to the start menu. Now, this was actually dropped in XP and kind of changed back to the regular, these files are hidden, and modifying them could, mess up your computer. You still have the option over here to view the entire contents of this drive. So they were kind of experimenting with different messages to display here to kind of deter people from modifying files in this folder. And the tour is contained inside of the help folder here, if we go into that. And this looks like it's actually an alphabetized view, so if we scroll down here, there's this tours folder, we open that up, and this is the tour right here. So this is it. Now, it's not actually like a finalized thing at all. It's basically just like a test, and just kind of shows how different elements would display. So you see we've got like text here, hello world, we've got some images floating around, some assets there. There is music playing in the background, but we can't hear it obviously because we don't have a set of speakers on this computer, and it just kind of loops. So this is not like an actual tour. Like I said, it's basically just a proof of concept to kind of see how all these elements would display. And down here we've got a hyperlink. It says this is a link right here. We can click that, and it looks like it actually opens up the help and support window right here, which this also looks totally different. And this is made in Macromedia Flash. So yeah, that is what the very early prototype version of the tour looked like, if you guys have never seen it before. And there you guys go. That is a look at Windows Whistler build 2419, installing it on the famous $5 Windows 98 PC. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to get subscribed down below and turn on those channel notifications if you haven't already to get notified whenever I upload a new video, which I do multiple times per week here on this channel. And if you guys have any comments, questions, or video suggestions for me, be sure to leave those down below. Like I said, this video was suggested by a lot of you guys, so if you want to see me install maybe a build of Longhorn or another Windows beta build, or just another operating system entirely entirely on this computer. Be sure to let me know, as I always enjoy reading your guys' feedback and what you have to say about these videos. And as always, guys, I just want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.